Good morning, everyone. My name is Angel Med Ryan. The topic that I will report is the basic concept of popular concept. So the term popular culture holds different meanings depending on who's defining it and the context of use. It is generally recognized as the vernacular or people's culture that predominates in a society at the point of time. The culture of the Philippines comprises a blend of traditional Filipino and the Spanish Catholic traditions with influences from America and other parts of Asia. The Filipinos are family-oriented and often religious with an appreciation for art, fashion, music, and food. Filipinos are also hospitable people who love to have a good time. This often includes getting together to sing, dance, and eat. The annual calendar is packed with festivals, many of which combine costumes and rituals from the nation's pre-Christian past with the Catholic beliefs and ideology of present day. Popular culture, pop cultures, involves the aspect of social life most actively involved in by the public. As the culture of the Filipino, popular culture is determined by the interactions between people in their everyday activities. Styles of dress, the use of slang, greetings, rituals, and the foods that people eat are all examples of popular culture. Popular culture is also informed by the mass media. In contrast, the association of popular culture with folk culture leads to a focus on subcultures such as youth culture or ethnic cultures. Through this subculture lens, popular culture is seen as a set of practices by artists or other kinds of culture makers that result in performances and objects that are received and interpreted by audiences, so both within and beyond the subculture group. Holistic approaches examine in the ways that popular culture begins as the collective creation of a subculture and is then appropriated by them market system. Key issues in the sociological analysis of popular culture include the representation of specific groups and themes in the content of cultural objects or practices, the role of cultural production as a form of social reproduction, and the extent to which audiences exercise agency in determining the meanings of the culture that they consume. So, things you should know about Filipino culture. So this is the things that you should know about Filipino culture. So Filipinos take pride in their families. Yes. So Filipinos are very religious. Filipinos are very respectful. Filipinos help one another. This is the best. Filipinos value traditions and culture. Filipinos love to party. Filipinos have the longest Christmas celebration ever. Filipinos loves to eat. And that is the end of my report. Thank you.
Hi ma'am, I'm John Mark Alak from Balilihan, Bohol, 22 years old. My topic is all about basic concepts of popular culture. Popular culture is the set of practice, beliefs, and objects that embody the most broadly shared meanings of a social system. It includes media objects, entertainment and leisure, fashion and trends, and linguistic conventions, among other things. The study of popular culture is useful in many ways. To be more specific, this course has reached its three intended main ideas: what it means to be American, how to be more consumption conscious, and how to apply these studies in our own lives. The five concepts of culture is the major elements of culture are: first, symbols; second, language; third, norms; fourth, values; and the last, artifacts. Popular culture is usually associated with either mass culture or folk culture, and differentiated from high culture and various institutional cultures, political culture, educational culture, legal culture, etc. The association of popular culture with mass culture leads to a focus on the position of popular culture within a position capitalized mode of economic production. Through this economic lens, popular culture is seen as a set of commodities produced through capitalistic processes driven by a profit motive and sold to consumers. In contrast, the association of popular culture with folk culture leads to a focus on subcultures such as youth cultures or ethnic cultures. Through this subculture lens, popular culture is seen as a set of practice by artists or other kinds of culture makers that result in performance and objects that are received and interpreted by audience. Both within and beyond the subcultural group, holistic approaches examine the ways that popular culture begins as the collective creation of a subculture and is then appropriated by the market system. Key issues in the sociological analysis of popular culture include the representation of specific groups and themes in the content of cultural objects or practice, the role of cultural production as a form of social reproduction, and the extent to which audience exercise agency in determining the meanings of the culture that they consume. The general overviews. Classical sociologists spoke generally to the concept of culture and culture's role in shaping human social life, but without distinguishing the specific form of popular culture. The Frankfurt and Birmingham schools discuss in classic works fostered interdisciplinary analysis of popular culture that include a number of sociological perspectives. The general overviews listed in this section offer broad social and sociological analysis of popular culture. History of 2015 has used cultural studies to open new lenses for the study of popular culture. And this book is now in its 7th edition. Gratian 2010 and Kate 2014 are both written as introductory texts for the sociology of popular culture, but they also serve well as field guides for scholars studying popular culture. Similarly, Holtzman 2000 and Denisi 2012 provide an introduction to the study of media and popular culture from the perspective of communication and anthropology respectively. Gaines 1998 is a study of youth music cultures in the 1980s. While Gaines 2003 is a memoir of writing a sociological analysis while also participating in the rock and roll culture of New York City in 1980s. Gamson 1994 provides a detailed history of the celebrity concept in American culture. Lopes 2009 provides a broad historical account of the development of the comic book industry. In simple words, popular culture can be understood as a set of cultural products, practice, beliefs, and objects dominating society. It affects and influences the people it comes across towards these sets of objects or beliefs. From music to dance, movies, literature, fashion, it encompasses everything that is believed and consumed by the majority of people in any society. Coined in the 19th century, the term popular culture is complex and hard to define. It depends on the context it has been used or on the people who are using it. View literally, it means the culture of the people being the culture of the people. It generates through the day-to-day interaction people engage in, the language they use, beliefs they hold, that rituals they follow, etc. Historical, it used to be equated with the culture of poor and lower classes which were uneducated, thus projecting it as an inferior culture against the upper official classes having higher education. This distinction became more prominent during the late 19th century. And that's all. Thank you.
Forms of culture. What forms of culture are there? And what important and interesting about cultural variation from a psychological point of view? Several disciplines in psychology have long taken up such questions, including cultural psychological cross-cultural psychology, ethnic minority psychology, ethnocenology, and others. For historical perspective of these fields, see Kashima 2000, Levine 2007, Nesbitt 2007, and Triandes 2007. A person reading this literature could be AH2 concluding that there is a very small number of cultural identities, North America versus East or South Asian, that vary principally in the dimension of individualism, collectivism, or independent, interdependent, self-constructual, whether people are seen as inherently independent from others or whether social rules are most important in finding the self-bound 1994, Brewer and Chin 2007, Marcos and Kitayama 1991, Oyserman, Kohn and Kim, Millimer 2002, Triandes 1995, Psychological understanding of cultural has advanced in many ways as a result of work in this theoretical tradition. Nevertheless, the intensive focus on geographic oriented variation in self-constructual ways have certain drawbacks. For one, Hu and Yi 1994 noted that individualism, collectivism is commonly involved to explain any observed cultural difference, despite the fact that Oyserman et al. 2002 concluded that cultural defense, individualism, and collectivism were neither as large nor systemic as often perceived, and that findings from student sample were likely not generalizable. Second, there seems to be a tendency to equate culture with country. That's all. Thank you.
Good afternoon, ma'am. My topic about form of culture. Types of culture include material culture and immaterial culture. Culture is the culture of tangible items such as technology, architecture, and art, while immaterial culture is the culture surrounding beliefs, mythology, values, or spiritual practice. They are non-physical objects. The two basic types of culture are material culture, physical things produced by a society, and non-material culture, intangible things produced by a society. Cars will be an example of American material culture. While our devotion to equality is part of our non-material culture. The three forms of culture. Each particular community group will have different ways of living with others. The way of living the life of a society can be defined as the culture of the society. A classic definition: culture is a set of behavioral patterns that are socially symbolically transmitted through language and other means to members of a particular society. Wallendorf and Riley in Mowen, 1995, is a complex whole which includes knowledge, belief, art, law, moral, customs, and any other capabilities and habits acquired by a man, a member of society. Culture has various definitions and from different backgrounds of different disciplines. The science of cultural anthropology. The first form of culture regulates and gives direction to the actions and works of man. Thoughts or ideas as well as patterns of community interaction affect the end. The physical culture will affect the way people think and the pattern of relations between humans.
Good morning, ma'am. My topic is all about popular culture in the Philippines. Pop culture slowly destroy culture. Many people's lives are influenced by pop culture. From the music they listen to, the show they spend hours watching, to the icons they support. Pop culture undeniable has many positive effect to people. Some some even improve their lives, but there are still lots of adverse effects because of all the influences of pop cultures. Many peoples are having a hard time of determining whether particular practices, beliefs, and culture is Filipino or not. They fail to show the values that Filipinos upheld. They are start to neglect their own culture and practices and tries to imit, imitate other practices instead. This issue therefore questions whether the Philippines should regulate the influx of pop culture or not. This paper has two main purpose. First is to present the positive and negative effects of pop culture to the Filipinos. The second is to improve why the Philippines should regulate the influx of pop culture in the country.
Good morning, Mom. My topic is all about popular culture in the Philippines. Building a culture has to start with a foundation, and that foundation must necessarily be the culture of the Filipino people in this could be separated with the incrustations grown on it by colonial rule. Popular culture, according to national artist of literature Benvenido Lombera in his book Revolution, Essays on Philippine Literature, Theater on Popular Culture in 1984, is highly different from the folk culture and nationalist culture of the Filipinos. In a nutshell, folk culture is the way of living in a place in a specific time and portrays the practices of a certain people and how they cope to survive with nature. Nationalist culture is the culture created through colonial resistance with the collective of a people on a given place and time. These two are different from popular culture, which can be traced even if the period of Hispanization of the Philippines. According to Lumbera, popular culture in the Philippines was created and used by the Spaniards to the native Filipinos or Indios via plays and literature to get the heart of the natives and win it. The colonial origins of popular culture found in the Philippines can be traced by looking at the silent development in the Philippines literature. The first permanent Spanish settlement began replacing the native culture with the Christian and European traditions. The children of the native elite under the tutelage of missionaries became a core group of intelligence called Ladinos, as they became instrumental in bringing into the vernacular literary forms that were to be for the vehicles for the pacification of the natives. Forms of popular theater and literature, such as the Paisan Sinakulu and Corrido, ensured the acceptance and spread of Christianity, and the Comedia and the Awit did the same for the monarchy. Popular culture, as introduced by the Spanish, was popular to the extent that it was watering down of Spanish European culture for the purpose of winning the general populace over to the ideology of the colonial regime. Popular culture at the time was created by colonial authorities with the aid of the local intelligentsia to promote the interests of the church and the state. However, once the native intelligentsia saw the effects of popular culture and knew how to work its way to propaganda, they soon used the Spanish weapon against them. In the 19th century, through the propaganda movement, the native intelligentsia used the same forms of popular culture to undermine the power of the abusive friars and rally the populace to put an end to colonial rule. One example is the work of Marcelo H. del Pilar, when he soon used prayers such as the Abba, Ginoong Maria, and Ama Namin, in short of parody to strike against the abuse of Spanish friars. The advent of American colonialism brought the property so-called popular culture to the Philippines. The liberal policy regarding the printing press, soon through radio, television, film, increased the circulation of the popular cultural forms, not only through these forms but also its new media then, such as films. Hollywood films had a near monopoly in the Philippines market, especially in the absence of European movies due to World War I. Early on, the local intelligentsia has the same apprehension over mass media as they called it commercialization or vulgarization of art. According to Lumbera, the local intelligentsia noticed the popular literature as a commodity intended for a mass market was seen to pose the threat to the serious artistic work because The writers accommodated his art to demands the publisher and editors who were more interested in sales rather than aesthetics. More so, popular culture is not created by the populace. Rather, it's culture created either by the ruling elite or by members of the intelligentsia is the employed of the elite. For the consumption of the populace, it is packaged entertainment or art intended for the profit of rulers by the colonial administrators or native bureaucrats and businessmen. To sit in Lumbera's lens, popular culture is power and however wilds is to manipulate minds is likely to find it literary and technologically machinery turn against him when he minds it has manipulated discover its potency as a political weapon. And I thank you.
Good morning, Mom. I am John Verl Sefra, and my topic is all about theories of popular culture. Theories of popular culture is a clear and comprehensive guide to the major theories of popular culture, from the Frankfurt School to postmodernism. Dominic's Trinity provides a critical assessment of the ways in which theorists have tried to understand and evaluate popular culture in modern society. Among the theories and ideas, the book introduces our mass culture, the Frankfurt School and the culture industry, structuralism and semiology, Marxism, political economy and ideology, feminism, postmodernism, and cultural populism. Trinity explains how theories such as Adorno, Barthes, Macroby, and Hebdig have engaged with the many forms of popular culture from jazz to popular television, and from teen magazines to the spy novel. The second edition has been revised and updated with new material or Marxism and feminism, as well as expanded discussion of recent theoretical developments, including the emergence of the idea of cultural populism. Each chapter includes a guide to key texts for further reading, and there is also a comprehensive bibliography. Dominic Trinity is lecturer in sociology at the University of Leicester. His previous work has been in the areas of political and industrial sociology, and he is at present researching into contemporary forms of popular culture. He is the author of an introduction of studying popular culture at the year 2000 and co-editor with Stephen Wag of Common Down, Popular Media Culture in Post-War Britain at 1992. The three main theories of popular culture. The first is functionalism, the second, conflict theory, and the third is symbolic interactionism. Functionalism. The theory of functionalism emerged in 1920s and then declined after World War II because of cultural changes caused by the war. Since the theory did not emphasize social transformations, it was replaced by other theories related to cultural changes. Functionalism is the doctrine that what makes something a thought, desire, pain, or any other type of mental state depends not on its internal constitution but solely on its function or the role it plays in a cognitive system of which it is a part. Functionalism, as developed by Talcott Parsons on 1902 to 1979, provided a bridge between classical and modern sociology. The father of functionalism is William James. The origins of functionalism are tracked back to William James, the renowned American psychologist of the late 19th century. Types of functionalism: machine state functionalism, psycho-functionalism, analytic functionalism, homuncular functionalism, and mechanistic functionalism. Example of functionalism: the government provides education for the children of the family, which in turn pays taxes on which the state depends to keep itself running. So the next one is conflict theory. Conflict theory, first developed by Karl Marx, is a theory that society is in a state of perpetual conflict because of competition for limited resources. Conflict theory holds that social order is maintained by domination and power rather than by consensus and conformity. The main points on conflict theory. Conflict theory has three assumptions. Humans are self-interested. Societies operate under perpetual scarcity of resources. Conflict is pervasive and unavoidable within social groups and between social groups. According to conflict theory, those wealth and power try to hold to it by any means possible, chiefly by suppressing the poor and the powerless. A basic premise of conflict theory is that individuals and groups within society will work to try to maximize their own wealth and power. Conflict theory focuses on the competition among groups within society over limited resources. Conflict theory views social and economic institutions as tools of the struggle among groups or classes used to maintain inequality and dominance of the ruling class. Marxist conflict theory sees society as divided along lines of economic class between the proletarian working class and the bourgeois ruling class. Later versions of conflict theory look at other dimensions of conflict among capitalist functions and among various social, religious, and other types of groups. Conflict theory examples. Some examples of conflict theory include pay inequalities between groups and equalities in the justice and educational system of governments. Conflict theory may be displayed at work in interpersonal, rule, and other conflicts. Man versus man, this is the most common type of conflict you'll see when your protagonist objective is in opposition to another characters. Man versus self, man versus society, and man versus nature. The three types of conflict theory: task conflict, relationship conflict, value conflict. So the last one is symbolic interactionism. Symbolic interactionism as a social theoretical framework starts from the presumption that our social world is constructed through the mundane act of everyday social interaction. Through the repetitive act of interaction, individuals as actors in relation to social groups constitute symbolic and shared meanings. Importantly, symbolic interactionism does not deny the unique. It is directly concerned with how distinctive meanings are adapted and interpreted through social practice. Methodologically, symbolic interaction are generally investigated through various qualitative approaches such as ethnography and participant observation. Symbolic interactionism is a social theoretical framework associated with George Herbert Mead at 1863 to 1931 and Max Weber on 1864 to 1920. It is a perspective that sees society as a product of shared symbols such as language. The social world is therefore constructed by the meanings that individuals attach to events and social interactions. And these symbols are transmitted across the generations through language. Symbolic interactionism is important to our society because, nevertheless, symbolic interactionism is a major theory in sociology and social psychology. It focuses on the active role that people play in constructing their own reality, and in that way, it helps us understand how interactions can shape people, experiences, and behaviors. Symbolic interactionism example. While it might seem like a big name, symbolic interactionism is how you experience and subjective meanings to symbols and letters. For example, the word dog. It's just a series of letters. Through your interaction with the letters dog, you see this a fury, four-legged canine. There are three main schools of symbolic interactionism: the Chicago School, the Iowa School, and the Indiana School. This school stem from the work of Herbert Blummer, Manford Kahn, and Sheldon Stryker, respectively. So, that could be all, ma'am. And thank you. And God bless us all.
Popular culture studies is the academic discipline studying popular culture. It is generally considered as a combination of communication studies and cultural studies. Academic discussions on popular culture started as soon as contemporary mass society formed itself, and the views on popular culture that were developed then still influence contemporary popular culture studies. Following the social upheavals of the 1960s, popular culture has come to be taken more seriously as a terrain of academic inquiry and has also helped to change the outlooks of more established disciplines. Conceptual barriers between so-called high and low culture have broken down, accompanying an explosion in scholarly interest in popular culture, which encompasses such diverse mediums as comic books, television, and the internet. Re-evaluation of mass culture in the 1970s and 1980s has revealed significant problems with the traditional view of mass culture as degraded and elite culture as uplifting. Division between high and low culture have been increasingly seen as political distinctions rather than defensible, aesthetic, or intellectual ones.
Good day, everyone, and most especially to you, ma'am. My topic is all about political, economic, and social aspects of popular culture. North Americans still implicitly or explicitly insist that popular culture is not worthy of scholarly IR attention, perhaps because it is seen as low politics, domestic politics, or not political at all. However, scholars from assorted perspectives and disciplines are eagerly and productively investigating myriad forms of popular culture in relation to every conceivable aspect of IR and world politics. One might even argue that there now exists a sub-interdiscipline of popular culture and world politics. In teaching a unit entitled Popular Culture and World Politics, which Jutta first taught in the US in the 1990s and Christine and Jutta have taught teach at the University of Bristol, we have been genuinely flummoxed by one thing. Some students invariably complain, well into or even at the end of the unit, but I don't understand. How does popular culture relate to world politics? Asking this question, given that the entire unit is organized around addressing it head-on, indicates a stuckness in a narrow understanding of IR as discipline or international relations as state practice or world politics as a wider but still conventional set of trans-border practices. At the same time, this question reflects a further assumption, sometimes surprisingly difficult to shift, that there is ought to be a simple, perhaps even singular, way to grasp how one thing popular culture relates preferably causally to another thing world politics. In typical positive fashion, students often expect to find that popular culture does something to world politics or less often that world politics does something to popular culture. But these assumptions misunderstand. Analytically, both popular culture and world politics are complex and contested concepts, so there can be no singular understanding of either. Empirically, the objects and practices to which the terms refer and the relations between and among them are varied, complex, and dynamic.